All right, so today we're going to really dig into what's happening in Maricopa, Arizona. It seems like everyone's talking about how much it's supposed to grow, starting like right now, basically 2025 and beyond.
Yeah, it's definitely been on my radar too.
So we've been doing some digging, right? Looking at news articles, all the city data we could find, and even some of those economic forecasts that try to predict the future.
Crystal ball stuff, huh?
Exactly. Trying to see if we can make sense of what's hype and what's really going on. Basically, we want to break down Maricopa's future in this deep dive, how the economy is going to change, what's happening with real estate, where all these new people are going to come from, and how the heck they're going to handle things like roads and water with all this growth.
Sounds like quite a puzzle.
It is, but I think the place to start is like the big picture shift, right? Maricopa is not just a place people drive through anymore.
Yeah, that's the first thing that jumps out at you. They're really working hard to make it more than just a commuter town, trying to build a real economy with jobs right there.
And that's where this industrial triangle comes in, right? This massive business park, 680 acres. It's crazy. They're talking about billions in investments.
Billions, yeah. That gets your attention. And it's not just any kind of businesses looking at Maricopa. When you see two waste recovery companies thinking about putting almost $2 billion there combined.
It's like, whoa, what's going on here?
It's a sign, right? Shows you they see something in Maricopa.
I mean, Envision Waste Services. They're talking about a $64 million facility just for processing mixed waste.
That's a lot of garbage.
But it's not just about the money. They're saying that means like 80 new jobs for people, paying an average of $56,000 a year. That's real money for people living there.
Exactly. Those are solid jobs. And it's not just one company either. You've got that proposal for the plastics recycling plant. Even bigger, $800 million. Another 200 jobs, averaging $50,000 a year.
This is where I really got interested, though. The rail spur they're talking about, connecting to the whole industrial triangle.
Yeah.
When they start throwing around numbers like potentially 37,000 jobs long term, you got to wonder how that even works.
Well, the rail line's a big deal because it opens up all kinds of possibilities. Think about the industries that need to move a lot of stuff around. Raw materials coming in, finished products going out.
Right, like manufacturing and shipping and stuff.
Exactly. And the numbers they're talking about, $1.4 billion in initial investment, 6 to 12 million square feet of new industrial space. That's huge. They're making a statement they want to be a major player in logistics and manufacturing.
So it's not just about attracting one company here and there. They're creating a whole system.
Exactly, like an industrial ecosystem. And it's not just about, factories and heavy industry either. You've got the University of Arizona getting in on the action too. They have that massive 2,100-acre property.
Yeah.
Used to be for agricultural research. Now they're talking about turning it into an innovation campus.
I know that's the part that really makes you think about the future, right?
Absolutely. And the UA is doing it in a smart way. They're not just putting all their eggs in one basket. They're building this 300-acre research and tech park, which will attract those high-tech, high-paying jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Then they've got a satellite education center plan so people right there in Maricopa can get the skills they need for those jobs. And then on top of that, they're going to have 600 acres of mixed-use commercial space. So it's not just going to be a campus. It's going to be a whole community.
It's mind-boggling when you think about the potential ripple effect. They're talking tens of thousands of jobs from that UA project alone and $4 billion pumped into the local economy each year.
Yeah, those are some big numbers. But it really does show how much potential they see in Maricopa. And healthcare is another key piece. They're building out this huge Copper Sky medical campus, 1.6 million square feet.
Wow.
It shows how serious they are about providing good health care for all those new people moving in, and they're working to get a full-fledged regional hospital there, too.
Which is a big deal, because right now you have to go pretty far for serious medical stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And then let's not forget about the fun stuff. You've got the PHX Surf Water Park coming, $100 million project. It's going to be huge. That should open by early 2026.
A surf park in the desert.
I know, right? It's pretty wild, but think about it. It's going to bring in tourists, create jobs in hotels and restaurants, all that. Make Maricopa a destination, not just a place to live.
It's like they're trying to build a whole city from scratch.
It's like they're trying to build a whole city from scratch almost. And they're doing it at a time when Arizona's economy is doing pretty well overall. They're predicting like 2.8% GDP growth in 2025.
So Maricopa is riding that wave.
They are.
Yeah.
And they're using all the tools they have to make sure they get their share. They're taking advantage of those state incentives like the Quality Jobs Tax Credit and the Qualified Facility Tax Credit. Basically, if businesses create jobs and invest in Arizona, they get a break on their taxes.
Makes it a lot more attractive for businesses to set up shop there.
Exactly. It's all about making Maricopa as appealing as possible. So when you look at the big picture, it's pretty clear. Maricopa's not just trying to grow, they're trying to transform themselves, moving away from being just a bedroom community and towards becoming a real economic powerhouse.
With all kinds of industries, too. They're not putting all their eggs in one basket. They've got manufacturing, high-tech research and development, healthcare, even tourism now. It's pretty diverse.
Which is good. A diverse economy is a resilient economy. It means they're not relying on just one industry to succeed.
It's like spreading the risk.
Exactly. And that's going to be important because with all these new jobs coming in, they're going to need a lot of people to fill them, and that means a lot of new housing.
Speaking of housing, it sounds like the residential market in Maricopa has calmed down a bit after those crazy price increases we saw a while back.
Yeah, it's definitely leveling off. The average home value in early 2025 is around $355,000, which, is still a good chunk of change. But it actually went down a little from the year before, about 0.7%.
So it's a little more affordable now.
It's a little more affordable, relatively speaking, but don't think that means they've stopped building. They're still putting up tons of new houses.
Yeah, I saw the numbers. 765 new single-family homes and another 264 multifamily units built in just 10 months. That's almost like 1,000 new homes in less than a year.
It is. And if you think about the average family size, all those new houses could mean space for something like 3,100 new residents. That's a lot of people moving in.
And these aren't just like cookie-cutter houses either. There are some massive planned communities in the works. I was reading about Stagecoach Springs that's going to be built on the old Smith family farm. They're talking about over 2,100 homes there.
Yeah, Stagecoach Springs is going to be huge. It's going to have a mix of everything. Around 1,100 single-family homes and almost 1,000 multifamily units, which is good. Maricopa needs more than just houses for big families.
Exactly. People need options.
And there's the Sanctuary Project, too, over on the east side. Another 300 or so single-family homes just in their first phase. Plus, you've got all these other subdivisions that are either approved or under review. Kelly Ranch, Hartman Trails, the list goes on.
It sounds like Maricopa is going to be one giant construction zone for a while.
Oh, yeah. And the city's been pretty consistent, approving over 1,000 new housing units every year for a while now. They're definitely committed to growth.
But it seems like they're also trying to get away from just building sprawling neighborhoods of single-family homes. Back in 2019, they set this goal to have 25% of all housing be multifamily.
Yeah.
Apartments, townhouses, that kind of thing.
That's right. And it makes sense. Multifamily housing is usually more affordable, and it appeals to a wider range of people, young professionals, seniors, people who don't want to deal with maintaining a big yard.
But it sounds like they're not quite there yet.
Not even close, actually. In 2023, multifamily housing was less than 2% of the total in Maricopa. They've got a long way to go, but at least they're starting to include more multifamily units in these new developments, like Stagecoach Springs, so it's a step in the right direction.
It's a long game, right? It takes time to change the whole landscape of a city.
Yeah, it does. But if Maricopa wants to keep growing and attracting a diverse population, they need to have a diverse housing market to offer. Otherwise, people are just going to go somewhere else.
Now, housing's just one side of the coin, right? You also need places for people to work and shop and do all the things people do in a city. So what's happening with the commercial and industrial real estate in Maricopa?
It's booming, just like the residential side. As more people move in, you need more businesses to serve them. So you're seeing new grocery stores popping up, restaurants, entertainment venues, all that. It's basic supply and demand.
And the UA Innovation Centers are going to have a big retail component too, right?
Right.
Almost like a town center within that development.
Exactly. That's part of what makes it so interesting. It's not just going to be a place to work or study. It's going to be a place to live and play too. That's the trend we're seeing more and more, these mixed-use developments that create self-contained communities.
And that reduces the need for people to drive all over the place, which is good for traffic, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's all about creating a more sustainable and livable environment. The Copper Sky Medical Campus and the UA Satellite Campus are going to create a lot of office and flex space too. So you're going to see businesses wanting to be close to those institutions, which will just add to the whole ecosystem they're building.
But it sounds like the real estate sector that's poised for the most explosive growth is industrial, especially with that massive industrial triangle.
Oh yeah, that's where they're really going big. With the potential for 12 million square feet of industrial buildings and that rail access we talked about, they're aiming to become a major hub for manufacturing and logistics.
12 million square feet. That's hard to even picture.
It's huge. And then you add on top of that the Murphy Park development, which is another 260 acres near the Auction community that's also earmarked for business and industrial uses. So they're not holding back.
So it seems like the whole real estate story in Maricopa is one of expansion and diversification.
Exactly. They're trying to create a more balanced city where people can live, work, shop, and play without having to go outside the city limits. It's about creating a self-sufficient community.
Which makes a lot of sense when you consider how fast the population is growing. I mean, Maricopa is always on those lists of the fastest growing cities in the country. It's kind of mind-blowing.
It is. They're adding people like crazy.
Yeah.
They saw a 7.1% jump in population just between 2022 and 2023. That brought them up to around 71,000 residents.
That's a huge increase in just 1 year.
And they estimate that by spring 2024, they were already somewhere between 74 and 76,000. To put that in perspective, back in 2000, there were just over 1,000 people living in Maricopa. We're talking about a growth rate of over 6,000% in a little over 2 decades. It's wild.
So they went from a tiny town to the biggest city in Pinal County. They're the 18th biggest city in all of Arizona now.
And it doesn't look like they're slowing down anytime soon. The projections for the future are pretty amazing. They're saying they could have over 500,000 residents by 2040. And some people are even saying that eventually Maricopa could be a city of 1 million people.
1 million, that's a mega city.
I know, that's way down the line though. In the more immediate future, it's pretty likely that they'll hit 6 figures in the next 5 to 10 years. And a couple 100,000 by the middle of the century seems pretty much guaranteed at this point. They already have enough housing units that are either permitted or planned to bring the population up to over 210,000.
So who are all these people moving to Maricopa?
It seems like a lot of them are young families and professionals who are getting priced out of the Phoenix metro area. They're looking for more affordable housing and maybe a bit more space. The median age in Maricopa is somewhere in the low to mid-30s, and a lot of people own their homes.
So it's a pretty young city with a lot of people putting down roots.
Exactly. But it's also a city with a lot of commuters. A lot of people who live in Maricopa still work up in Phoenix, especially in places like Chandler, which is a big employment hub. You see a lot of engineers, medical professionals, that kind of thing.
So it's kind of a trade-off. You get more affordable housing, but you have to drive further to work.
Yeah, but for a lot of people, it's worth it. And it's actually good for Maricopa, too, because it means they have a skilled workforce already living there. As the local economy grows and more jobs become available, hopefully more of those people will be able to work closer to home.
But all this growth comes with its own set of challenges, too, right?
Oh, yeah. The more people you add, the more strain you put on everything. Housing, schools, infrastructure.
It's like a constant game of catch-up.
Exactly. Maricopa's been working hard to keep up, building new schools and expanding their utilities, but they're going to have to be really smart about how they manage this growth if they want to avoid some of the problems that other fast-growing cities have run into.
It seems like the government's taking a pretty proactive approach, though. I mean, it's clear that both the city of Maricopa and the state of Arizona are very pro-growth.
Oh, yeah. They're definitely not shying away from growth. A good example of that is Proposition 482, which voters approved in July 2024.
What was that about again?
Basically, it allowed the city to sell 728 acres of city-owned land for community and economic development. That's what really paved the way for projects like the Industrial Triangle.
So they're literally making space for growth.
Exactly. And even though there was some opposition to the proposition, it still passed with 57% of the vote. That shows you that most people in Maricopa are on board with this whole growth agenda.
But it's not just about selling land, is it? They're also actively courting businesses.
Oh, yeah. They're using all kinds of tools to attract businesses. Economic development agreements, competitive pricing on land, you name it. Plus, they're benefiting from the state's incentive programs, like the Qualified Facility Tax Credit and the Quality Jobs Tax Credit. Those programs give companies financial breaks for investing in Arizona and creating jobs.
It's like a package deal.
It is. And on top of that, you've got the Arizona Commerce Authority working to bring big, high-tech manufacturers to the region.
Like TSMC and Intel, right?
Exactly. Even though those companies aren't setting up shop directly in Maricopa, their presence in the Phoenix metro area is going to have a ripple effect on the whole region.
It's like a rising tide lifts all boats.
Exactly. And then there's the potential for a regional transportation authority in Pinal County, which could bring in a whole new stream of funding for infrastructure projects.
That'd be huge. Because infrastructure is probably the biggest challenge facing Maricopa right now.
Right.
Right. Especially transportation.
Oh, yeah. Traffic's already a nightmare on some of those roads.
Especially State Route 347.
Right.
That's the main artery connecting Maricopa to Phoenix. And right now, it's just a 4-lane highway.
Yeah, and it carries something like 40,000 vehicles every day. It's completely overwhelmed. So they're working on plans to widen it to 6 lanes and improve the intersections along the way. But it's going to be expensive, something like $235 million for the whole project.
$235 million. That's a lot of money.
It is, but they've managed to secure about $90 million so far for the section of the highway that's in Maricopa County. The problem is the rest of the project, the part that runs through Pinal County from the reservation line down to the city, they still need another $145 million for that.
So there's a big funding gap.
Yeah, but the good news is that the Arizona Department of Transportation has included the SR 347 widening as an illustrative project in their 2025 to 2029 program.
What does that even mean?
It basically means that they recognize the importance of the project, but they haven't actually committed the money to it yet, so it's kind of in limbo. But the city's been lobbying hard to get that funding. They know how important it is.
So it's a waiting game right now.
Pretty much. But in the meantime, they're making some smaller improvements to try to make things a little safer and easier for drivers. Things like adding turn lanes at busy intersections. And the fact that they're working more closely with the Gila River Indian community now is a good sign.
Why is that?
Because the highway runs right through their land. So having their cooperation is going to be crucial for getting anything done.
So it sounds like the SR 347 expansion is probably going to happen eventually. It's just a question of when they can find the money.
Yeah, pretty much. But there's another big transportation project in the works that could really change the game for Maricopa.
What's that?
The East-West Corridor. It's going to be a whole new highway connecting Maricopa to Interstate 10 to the east, towards Casa Grande.
So that would give people another way in and out of the city besides SR 347.
Exactly. It would take a lot of pressure off of 347, and it would connect Maricopa to the rest of the region in a whole new way.
It sounds like a massive project, though.
It is, and it's going to take a while to build the whole thing.
Yeah.
The first phase, the Sonoran Desert Parkway, actually opened back in the fall of 2023. That was a big step. But to complete the whole thing, the connection all the way to Casa Grande is going to cost somewhere around $355 million.
Wow. That's even more than the SR 347 widening.
Yeah, but the good news is that it's a joint project. Pinal County, Maricopa, Casa Grande, and the Auction Indian community are all working together on it.
That's good. It's a regional effort.
Exactly. And they're planning to hold public meetings in early 2025 to get feedback from the community.
So they're trying to get everyone on board.
Yeah, because they know this is going to be a big deal for everyone in the area. Once it's finished, it's going to be a 21-mile, 4-lane parkway that will basically give Maricopa a second gateway to the outside world.
So they're thinking long-term.
Oh, yeah. They're thinking way ahead. The timeline they're working with is to have the whole thing done in phases before 2040.
So they're not expecting it to happen overnight?
No, but they're committed to making it happen.
And it's not just about the big highways either, right? They're doing a lot of work inside the city, too, to improve the local roads and make it easier for people to get around.
Absolutely. They're constantly adding and improving roads, putting in new traffic signals, trying to keep up with the growth. They're also working on synchronizing the traffic signals along SR 347 within the city limits.
What does that do?
It helps to keep the traffic flowing smoothly so you're not stopping and starting all the time. They're even planning a pedestrian overpass across the railroad tracks to make it safer for people to walk around.
So they're thinking about pedestrians, too, not just cars.
They're trying to create a more balanced transportation system, and the fact that they now control those state routes within the city limits gives them a lot more flexibility to do things their way.
That's a big deal. They don't have to wait for the state to get things done.
Exactly. And it's all part of their plan to make Maricopa a more attractive place to live and work. They want people to have a good experience when they come to Maricopa, whether they're driving, walking, or biking.
So what about public transportation? I know a lot of people in those fast-growing cities are hoping for better public transit options.
Yeah, there's definitely demand for it, but Maricopa's public transportation system is still pretty limited. Right now, they have Maricopa Express Transit, which is mainly a dial-a-ride service, and a small fixed-route bus system.
This is mostly for people who don't have cars.
Yeah, or for seniors who can't drive anymore. And it mainly operates within the city limits, although it does connect to Casa Grande. But there's no real commuter link to Phoenix.
Which is a problem because so many people who live in Maricopa work in Phoenix.
Yeah. There's been talk about setting up some kind of park and ride system or maybe even commuter rail, but nothing concrete yet. For now, most people are driving themselves.
Sounds like they've got a long way to go on that front.
Yeah.
But what about the other essential infrastructure, things like water and sewer and electricity? With all these new people moving in, are they going to be able to keep up?
That's a good question. But it seems like Maricopa's in pretty good shape on that front. They've been investing heavily in their utilities infrastructure, and they have a 100-year assured water supply designation.
What does that mean exactly?
It means they have a guaranteed supply of water that's enough to meet their needs for the next 100 years. That's a big deal, especially in a place like Arizona where water is so scarce.
So they're not going to run out of water anytime soon.
Not likely. And they're also doing a lot of work to conserve water and make sure their system is as efficient as possible. They're even using advanced technology like automated meter reading and leak detection to minimize waste.
So it sounds like they're taking infrastructure seriously.
Oh, yeah. They know it's the foundation for everything else. Without good roads, reliable utilities, and efficient transportation, all that growth could come to a screeching halt.
So it's like a balancing act, right?
Yeah.
They need to grow, but they need to do it in a way that's sustainable.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance. And there are definitely challenges ahead.
Speaking of challenges, we should talk about some of the other things that Maricopa is going to have to deal with as it grows. Like, besides the transportation issues, what else are they facing?
Well, one of the big ones is going to be creating enough jobs to keep up with the population growth.
Because right now, a lot of people are still commuting to Phoenix to work, right?
Yeah, exactly. So if they want to become a truly self-sufficient city, they need to make sure that there are enough good-paying jobs right there in Maricopa. The Industrial Triangle and the UA Innovation Center are going to be big parts of that.
But those are both long-term projects.
They are. So in the meantime, they're going to have to find other ways to attract businesses. And they're going to have to make sure that they're training people for the jobs that are available.
So workforce development is going to be key.
Absolutely. And then there's the whole environmental side of things. Arizona is already facing a water crisis, and Pinal County has some pretty strict groundwater regulations. So Maricopa is going to have to be really careful about how they manage their water resources.
It sounds like they're aware of that, though.
Yeah.
They're already doing a lot of work on water conservation.
Yeah, and they've got that secure water supply for the next 100 years, so they're in a good position. But they're still going to have to be mindful of the impact that all this growth is having on the environment. Air quality, open space, all of that.
And then there's the quality of life issue. As the city grows, it's going to be harder to maintain that small town feel that a lot of people are attracted to.
Yeah, that's always the challenge with growth. You want to keep the things that make your city special, even as you're getting bigger.
So what are they doing about that?
Well, they're trying to build more parks and recreation facilities, and they're investing in cultural amenities. They're also working to improve their public safety services and make sure that there are enough police and firefighters to keep everyone safe.
It sounds like they're thinking about all the different aspects of what makes a city livable.
They are, but they're also realistic. They know that growth is going to bring changes, and they're trying to prepare for that as best they can.
One thing I was curious about is their relationship with the surrounding communities, especially the Native American tribes.
Yeah, that's a really important piece of the puzzle. Maricopa is literally surrounded by American Indian reservations, so they have to find ways to coexist and cooperate.
Because those reservations have their own interests and concerns, right?
Exactly. And there have been some conflicts in the past, especially over things like water rights and development. So Maricopa is going to have to be really careful to maintain good relationships with the tribes if they want to continue to grow.
So it sounds like there are a lot of moving parts here. A lot of different factors that are going to determine whether Maricopa succeeds or fails in this grand experiment.
Absolutely. It's a fascinating case study in urban development. Going to be really interesting to see how it all plays out over the next few years.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today. It's been a really informative deep dive into the future of Maricopa, Arizona. Thanks for sharing your insights with us.
My pleasure. It's a really dynamic situation, and it's always great to talk about these kinds of things.
So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder. As Maricopa continues to grow at this incredible pace, what are the trade-offs they're going to have to make? How do they balance attracting big industry and creating jobs with preserving the environment and maintaining that small town feel that people love?
That's a tough question.
It is. And it's one that every fast-growing city has to grapple with. There are no easy answers. But we encourage you to keep following Maricopa's story and see how they navigate these challenges. Thanks for joining us on The Deep Dive.